Hi, I'm Apostle Dr. Leanne Marino for Apostolic Fellowship International Ministries, and I've been called to bring you a special message today about prosperity. If you've watched television lately or watched some of the major name televangelists of the day, you're going to hear a lot about their version of what prosperity is. But their words always remind me of something American philosopher Gerald Sykes said in the 1960s, that the new American road is salvation by checkbook. While he may not have been talking of an actual theological position, what he said about the face of American religion was actually very true. Today, faith and the validity of one's faith or whatever often comes down to being defined by how much money they have. And the question comes to mind, is this really the position that we're supposed to have as Christians as a measure of what people believe? In 1 Timothy chapter 6, verses 6 through 10, a very important message comes through about money and the Christian's relationship with money, or rather, shall I say, the relationship that they shouldn't have with money. And it is indeed a source of immense profit for godliness, accompanied with contentment. That contentment, which is a sense of inward sufficiency, is great and abundant gain. For we brought nothing into the world, and obviously we cannot take anything out of the world. But if we have food and clothing, with these we shall be content or satisfied. But those who crave to be rich fall into temptation and a snare, and into many foolish, useless, godless, and hurtful desires that plunge men into ruin and destruction and miserable perishing. For the love of money is the root of all evils. It is through this craving that some have been led astray and have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves through with many acute mental pangs. So what we're hearing here is that the truth is every person has a relationship with money, because it is a very, very foundational aspect of how we live. Obviously, if we don't have any money, we can't afford to live because we can't afford to eat. But whether or not we judge people by how much money they have or how much money we have becomes a problem. If we have a disordered relationship with money, then we're going to have a disordered foundation in our life. We're going to be lusting and looking after things that we can't have or shouldn't have or aren't good for us. And we start to develop a problem in our lives in learning where the line between need begins and ends and want begins and ends. All of these preachers often talk about God wanting us to be prosperous. And the truth is that if we read the Bible, God indeed wants us to prosper. But what is prosperity? If we look at Deuteronomy 28, which is a very long chapter, and we won't be going there today, but I encourage you to go, we have 14 blessings listed by verse in that chapter, discussed by God for obedience. And we have the rest of the chapter, which I believe the chapter is about 68 verses long, talking about curses that will happen for not belief and for not obeying God. While God wants us to have all those blessings, very, very few of them really relate to money. More than anything, God talks about a promise of a quality of life, of health, of having enough, of being able to feed yourself and support yourself. And even more than that, talking about not miscarrying, having healthy relationships with your family and friends, and a healthy relationship within the community. So when people are trying to judge us by how much money we have, they really are encouraging greed, and they really are encouraging a measure of greed in the church by which God does not measure us, does not encourage us to be measured, and is not the standard for our faith life. We may not all be rich in this life, and obviously many of us won't be, but we can all have an abundant life through Christ, and we can have the wholeness and the quality of life God desires for us as we stay in Him. Thank you very much for watching this short message. I certainly hope it has brought help to your life. If you have been touched by this message, please consider helping us with future broadcasts. You can visit me on the web at www.powerfortoday.org and can find complete information for all that there. Thank you very much for watching, and be blessed.